No problem. All right, so as I was mentioning, guys, business analysis is a set of tasks and techniques, right? And if you see, I have the definition in green listed for you, which is it's a set of tasks and techniques used to work as a liaison among stakeholders in order to understand the structure, policies, and operations of an organization and recommend solutions that enable organizations to achieve its goal. Now, when we do business analysis, right, as part of business analysis, if we are figuring out a software solution, then it is an IT project, right? In which case, you are working as an IT business analyst. If you are working on anything non-IT, right, for example, business process redesign or strategic analysis of organization or department, now these are just some of the three key business needs, right? There could be others as well, right? But if you're doing it for anything besides IT, then it is not an IT project. It is a non-IT project, and you are a business process analyst. Now, the term business process analyst, it may not, when you look at the job descriptions, you may not come across as business process analyst. It may just say analyst. It may say business analyst, right? But IT business analyst, the distinction is either you are a business analyst, business process analyst, or IT business analyst, all right? So this is the more theoretical distinction. Either you are IT business analyst or not. Now, this course is focused on IT business analysis. We will touch business process analysis also, because the techniques are pretty much the same, all right? However, the tasks of an IT business analyst are more than a non-IT, just a business process analyst. Is that clear? All right.
Yeah.
Now, why do we focus on the IT business analysis portion? If you go through the job boards, you will see about 80 to 90% of the jobs. If you read through the job description, you will know that they're talking about software development, okay? And because 80% of our lives have been taken over by some kind of system or software, right, it is understandable that the jobs in the industry are also software related. So the prime focus of this session, of this batch, right, of this class is IT business analysis. Everyone clear?
Yeah.
All right. So as I mentioned before, there are two kinds of projects, IT projects and non-IT projects. Anything that has to do with software, either buying a software, building a software, integrating a software, then it is an IT project. Examples are, I'm sure all of you, there are some of you who may know somebody, they're building a website, creating a website, or they're doing online sales, right? There was a couple of Indian websites where you could go, but you couldn't buy. Now, all of a sudden, you can buy from those websites, all right? So there's a software involved, right? Now the website, which really is a portal, right? Now you can do things on that website. So now the website has features that they were not there before, right? So that would require an IT project. Same goes the software that we install on our computers, right? We can install there are so many applications that we install on our smartphones. There are applications, example, TurboTax, right? That's a software. Somebody must have built it, right? Same applies to the MS Office CD, right? And we install that software. We have piracy software, right? Anti-piracy software. All of those softwares have been developed. And in order to develop those softwares, they must have had an IT project, right? They must have been an IT project at some point. And the outcome of that project was the successful development of that software. Okay, same applies. The ATM machine, it's not just a machine, there's a software running on the background, right? So developing that software for the ATM machine is also, or was an IT project. Anything besides that is a non-IT project, all right? So you will see there are lots of construction jobs. They need business analysts there. We are always, building casinos and hotels and hospitals, right? We're setting up call centers. These are projects too, and they require business analysis as well. It's just that they are non-IT projects, right? Now, many a times, as an IT business analyst, if you're within a company, you may be assigned a non-IT project. So it's not unheard of. It's not always, the one and the same thing. Many a times, and I myself have known, there was once a company that I was working at, and we outgrew ourselves in space. So we had to find a new location. And one of the things that we had to figure out was, or I had to figure out was, well, how many more new cubes, how much more square foot do we need? How many more cubes would we need, right? How many more people are we looking to hire? Now, this is not an IT project, but this is a non-IT project, right? Just the construction piece. There are many who work for hospitals, right? They have all these new hospitals everywhere, and the same applies for if you're working for a retailer. They open up so many different stores, right? JCPenney, Macy's, Dillard's. You have these stores. So how do you set up, how do you put together a new store, right? It has to be in the IT system so that the stores can receive their products to be able to sell. But in addition to that, and of course all the sales must ring, right? JCPenney, it's not as if JCPenney New York location is posting its own revenue and JCPenney Florida location is posting its separate revenue. It all goes to JCPenney Inc., right? So how does it all flow? So of course there is the IT component, but in addition to that, every time they open up a new store, right, that must also be organized. How big? What is the space? How do you plan it out, right? So that is a non-IT project. Are you all clear?
Yeah.
Now, this is something that I alluded to in our demo as well. So what happens, and this is Krishna, this is where I will, will clarify some of the things because you didn't get most of it right. So what will happen? Let's say it is the sales department that they have an objective to meet. And they figured out that in order to meet that objective, they have a threefold plan, right? So yes, they will hire more salespeople. They will do some reorg, but they also want the software, right? So the other two pieces, they have some analysts that are taking care of the non-IT pieces. And then for the IT piece, right, they will reach out to the CIO of the company. Now why? Most often, the way it works, or the way I've seen, and I've met with a couple of other people from the industry, what I've seen is every department has their own analyst. And when they have their own projects, non-IT projects, they ask the analyst to work on those. And IT projects are the ones that they reach out to the CIO of the company. Why? Because project management, right, is, like I said, because 80% of the projects are IT projects, so 80% of the time, project management office reports to the CIO, okay? So when they have an IT solution in mind, they reach out to the CIO or the Chief Information Officer. And they talk about their new upcoming project and will reach out to the PMO lead, right? Now, under the CIO, of course, as I alluded to, we have the PMO. The PMO reports to the CIO. Who else reports to the CIO? Well, we have, when we talk about software, first thing that comes to our mind is the development team, right? So we have developers. Now, within the developers, there is a distinction. How so? I'm sure some of you know there are some web designers, right? Then there are software engineers who do some programming. Then there are database architects, DBAs, solutions architects, enterprise architects, right? So there are different kinds of developers. It's not the same thing. But we have that one IT development group. We lump them together. Then under the CIO, there's another group, help desk, security, all right, compliance. So there is, network security. If you need your emails set up, if you're a new hire, somebody's got to set up your emails, install new software on your machine, right? If you've forgotten your password and whatnot, so somebody's got to take care of that. Network, put together the we need a new printer. How does your computer talk to this printer, right? All that has to be figured out. How do we store our servers? Where's the server room? What is the backup server? What applications will be on this server? All that maintaining that server, right? Server room and the databases and whatnot. So we have another group that does all of it, compliance, right? There are certain state laws, federal laws, some data especially, I'm sure all of us know, right? There's credit card information, social security information. It has to be secure, right? It has to, even otherwise. There are firewalls. I'm sure all of you have heard of that, right? When you go to certain websites, these are secure websites, right? There are certain firewall rules as well. What will the system allow to, what information will it allow to pass through and not. So we have that group. Then we have the PMO. Anytime we have an IT project, it must be handled a certain way. How will any project be handled? What is the methodology we will use? Who is going to do what? What are the roles and responsibilities? At what time, what templates will be filled out, right? How would we say that this project was successful? The methods, the techniques, the tools that we will use to work on a project, right? All those guidelines, standards, templates are put together by the PMO, Project Management Office, and project managers and business analysts, because we handle the project, we report to the PMO. So in a sense, when a business owner reaches out to the CIO, he is really reaching out to the PMO, and one of us, right, is assigned, all right? Now, in addition to the PMO, there is another group that for some organizations reports to the PMO, and in other places this group reports directly to the CIO, and that is called the SQA team, all right? Software Quality Assurance Team or testing team. Like I said, how the organization works, it depends on their hierarchy, what they figured it out. But typically, the IT department is comprised of all these different groups and subgroups that I called out. Every group and subgroup has their own managers that report to the CIO. All right, so there may be middle layers, but typically, if you take away the layers, then we have the CIO. Then under the CIO, we have the IT development manager, the PMO lead, the SQA manager, the network desktop support manager, right? And under them are all the developers, the architects, the BAs, the PMs, and the testers. Is that clear to everyone?
Yeah.
All right. So what will happen is when this business owner reaches out to the PMO, okay, the PMO manager or the PMO lead will, by looking at the project itself, decide whether it is a big enough project to warrant its own project manager, or should the business analyst also work as a project manager. Now, why do I say that? Project managers and business analysts have two totally different roles and responsibilities, right? Project managers are managing the project, okay? Which means that a project has a timeline. Remember, the board of directors, the stakeholders are not going to wait forever for you to bring in the results. These results, guys, give me just 1 minute. Okay, give me just 1 minute. Sorry about that. So a project manager is going to be responsible for making sure that the project is done in time. And again, yes, we want to get value out of this project, but remember, anytime there is a project, some cost is incurred, right? So how does, guys, one of you is unmuted. Not that it bothers me, but it's just that the audio quality will go down for the others. Call-in user 5. I don't know, is there somebody who's using a landline or a cell phone? You need to mute yourself on the landline. All right, thank you. So what will happen is, where was I? Yeah, so there's always a cost involved, right? So anytime we have 3 people, even if there's 1 developer, 1 business analyst, and 1 tester involved, we are providing services, right? Which means that this business owner or unit must reimburse us. Anytime any department provides services, then these services are charged to that business unit, right? And it is how internally it works, right? So even though I'm a full-time employee, anytime I work on a project for a certain department, then my time is billed to that department, okay? So there is a cost involved. There's a cost involved in building a software. You may need some hardware. You may need some licenses and whatnot. So there's always a cost involved. And so there's a project budget. The business owners, you need to have a return on investment, right? You can't spend $2 million to get a, for an outcome that will only yield you 20 grand in profit, right? It's not a good option at that point. So you must know what will be your cost and how much will you benefit from it, return on investment. So that is something that the project manager must also take care of, manage the budget that has been assigned to this project. All right. And lastly, the ultimate responsibility of the project manager is the scope. What is the solution that we are building, right, or working on? And whatever we figure out, that it must meet the objectives. If it doesn't meet the objective, then it was all in vain, right? All the time and money that we spent, the resources that could not be used on something else, we used it. We blocked these resources for this project, and the output that was created does not even meet the objective. So somebody's got to manage the scope, right? So that is what a project manager does. A business analyst, on the other hand, like I explained, is doing the analysis of the solution, right? How do we make it work? What are the objectives? Do the requirements meet the objectives? How do we, what are the features of this solution? How does this feature work when in different scenarios and whatnot? So we are doing something totally different. Now, project manager is really a person, is required when you have a large project or you have lots of different stakeholders. Why? Because somebody's got to talk to these stakeholders. There's lots of money involved. There's, too many people involved, right? So managing all these resources, and people are one of those, right? People is people, that's a resource as well. So it may be a full-time job of a person, a full-time employee may be required to do all of it, all the administrative job. But if the project is small to medium-sized, then you may not need a dedicated project manager, right? You may, the PMO lead may decide that the business analyst can also work as a project manager, in which instance only a business analyst is assigned to the project. Is that clear?
Pooja, this is Krishna.
Yes, Krishna.
Depending on the complexity of the project, that's when a business analyst is assigned or a project manager is assigned, correct?
That it's not just complexity, there are many things. It could be the total budget involved, right? Anything. It could be budget, time frame, stakeholders, scope, right?
Okay.
All right. So when we as business analysts are assigned to a project and the expectation is that we will also work as a project manager, remember, we are a business analyst first. If they truly needed a proper dedicated project manager, they would have hired one. But they don't. So the expectation is nominal project management activities, meaning to say we should have a project plan, we should know what are the tasks and activities, and we should manage our budget and timeline. But they're not looking for jazzy reports and, all that fanfare that pretty much a project manager, if all he's doing is putting together, right, all these reports to make sure that the budget and timeline is on track, then there are different views for the same information, right? And he is basically catering to every stakeholder. How does this stakeholder want his information? How does this stakeholder want his information? So that he can manage the resources properly. But if you, as a business analyst, are working as a project manager, then we know that we don't want all the jazzy stuff. We only want nominal project management. So your key activity in that case is still business analysis and some project management. All right? Now, this is one of the reasons why you will come across many people who are now project managers and but they started out as business analysts. So reason why, because if you are a business analyst also working as a project manager, you have, you get some experience, hands-on training, and then you can, if you enjoy project management, then you can go full-fledgedly into that field. This is something, guys, and I talked to you at the demo as well. I've gone that route and I enjoyed business analysis more, so I've come back to business analysis. Right? But I also know many people who started out as business analysis and they ventured into project management and they love it. They don't want to ever go back to business analysis. So you must decide what is right for you. If you're more of an administrative person, right, and managing people, managing resources, then project management is the right thing for you. If you're more hands-on, analytical, logical, more dynamic, meeting with all these 10 different people, you want to solve these problems, figure out. Now, you're in the thick of things. So you get a lot of recognition, but remember, there's also a lot of frustration involved, all right? When you're trying, as a consultant, we can only provide recommendations to our business, right? As to, well, this doesn't really meet our objective, but sometimes the business gets hung up on certain things, right, and which are totally pointless, okay? And then we've got to keep the customer happy. Ultimately, it is their money. This is what they're paying for. So it can get very tricky. You've got to, walk a very fine line. But it is very interesting. At all times, business analysis is always interesting, okay? But you must just feel that passionate about it. So if you are that person, if you're a logical, analytical, problem-solving, thinking on your feet kind of person, then business analysis is the best field for you. All right? And of course, you can also be a business analyst or also working as a project manager where you're doing both and enjoying both. All right? But you must figure that out for yourself, which is the way you want to go. And starting out as a business analyst is not a bad way to start. All right, so I have been mentioning business sponsors and stakeholders, right, a couple of times. Now, what does that mean? Anytime we have a project, right, remember, as I've mentioned before, IT department definitely only provides services, right? So when we provide services, then anybody within IT, right, whether it is a BA or a developer or a tester, our services must be billed to a particular department. So the department head that has this project, right, is the project sponsor. He is paying for this project to be completed, right? He's paying for the solution. He's paying for the software to be built. He's paying for if it's a non-IT project, he's paying for the solution, irrespective of whether it is IT or not. He's paying for the solution and all the services rendered for that in order to make that solution happen. Hence, that business unit is a sponsor, a project sponsor or business sponsor. there is a slight difference. Sometimes a particular department, right, could be the sponsor. For example, e-commerce marketing could be the sponsor. And within that e-commerce marketing, you may have 3 different sub-departments, right? And one of those departments could be the project sponsor. This project is for one of those departments within the e-commerce marketing group. Are you clear so far? Again, it is all about hierarchy or corporate hierarchy, right? But generally, a sponsor, business sponsor is also a project sponsor if you don't have many, layers in between. All right? So a business sponsor is the executive, right? It is every department is headed by somebody. It is that executive who must manage, administer, monitor, fund, and is responsible for the overall project delivery. Why? Because if it is my project, I need to meet those objectives. Do you think I should be overall in control of the project? When does it start? When does it end? What will this solution entail? Yes or no? Yes, so I'm managing it, right? I also want to administer it, meaning to say I must have proper updates on how are things that are going so far, right? What has been accomplished? What are the roadblocks? What do we need to do next? So I must administer. In order to manage, I must administer. True or not true?
Yeah.
All right. I must also monitor, correct? So administration and monitoring is also keeping an eye on how are things done, right? So administer is getting updates, but monitor is also give direction, right? So I'm monitoring as well. Of course, I'm funding for it, right? This is my project. No one else is going to pay for my project. I must shell out the money from my department budget to pay for this project to happen. So I fund for it, right? I fund this project. And I am the one who is responsible for the delivery. Why? Because I am responsible for meeting the objectives. In order to meet the objectives that have been set for me and my team or my department, I need the solution done in a certain time frame. Because I will start reaping the benefits of the solution from the time that the solution has been delivered, right? Correct? So if my solution is delivered late, let's say we were 2 months late in delivering the solution, do you think I still have sufficient time to meet my project goals, my department goals for the year? Maybe not, right? So if I don't meet the goals for the year, do you think the board of directors or the president of the company is still going to keep me on the payroll? No.
Most likely not.
Most likely not, right? So I am responsible for the overall project delivery. Okay? So this is a business sponsor. He or she must be actively involved with the project. Okay? Now a sponsor, right, let's go back to our example before. So I am the vice president sales. I've got to increase the revenue by making more sales, right? I've got to bring in more sales. Now, I can sell anything on paper, but does that really count unless I can deliver the product to the customer? No, right? So if I have to deliver the product, what must also happen? The manufacturing department must manufacture some X number of shampoo bottles, right? Or if I'm going to buy this shampoo or whatever product it is that I'm selling, if I've got to procure it from another source, then the procurement department must procure it, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Same goes. Well, they can procure it or they can manufacture it, and I am not personally going to deliver all these shampoo bottles, am I?
No way.
No. So I need to have the shipping department involved. Why? Because, whether it is selling to individual customers like you and I, or whether it is having it shipped to the retailers, right? Publix, H-E-B, Walmart, CVS, wherever it is, I need these products to be delivered to my customers, correct? So I need shipping department involved. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
So there's a chain. When I do a project, it will impact others as well, right? Why? Because when I do these, if I'm getting all this sales information and I'm storing it in my database, how do I get all the sales information to the other departments? If it's all in my software, then I need to provide access to that software to these other two departments as well, correct? They need to be able to look at how many orders, how many total shampoo bottles do they need to build, do they need to manufacture. And once they manufacture, they must put in their inputs that it is ready to be picked from this such and such area. Shipping department must also get a notification that, hey, this is ready. They must go pick it up and then box it up based on the orders, right? So if there are 6 bottles due to store X and 6 dozen bottles due for store Y, and they must know what is the shipping address, right? They will box it up and then put the label and ship it out. So this application is going to be used by not just one team. It will be used by others as well. So anytime there is a solution, right, we build a solution, it always impacts other groups of people, other departments. It could be positive, it could be negative, right? But there's always an impact. Anybody who is impacted by a project is called a stakeholder. And if they are business units, as far as we are concerned, right, in IT, everybody is a business unit. So we are going to call them as business stakeholders or customers. Are you clear? Now, customer or a business stakeholder, they have controlling influence on the program. In the program. Why? Because if this software does not meet their needs, do you think they will be okay with it? No. So anything I build, yes, my project sponsor is X. These are the 10 features that they need, but I also must consider my other business stakeholders. Why? Because they will also need to use this application. They are impacted by this software, by this solution, right? So I have to somehow figure out how to make this solution work for them as well. And which means that these stakeholders have controlling influence on the ultimate solution. They can benefit from the solution, from the program, application, whatever it is that we are building. They may have interest in the process or outcome of the program, right? They may have resources involved. So if that is the definition, let's talk about IT development team, IT group, right? Do you think the IT department is a stakeholder? Yes. However, we are not business, right? We are IT. So there is a distinction. Anybody that aside from IT is called business stakeholders, and then we have the IT stakeholders. So if it is an IT project, then IT is also a stakeholder. All right? Anybody that has any kind of resources, time, money, people, then it is a stakeholder. So by that definition, the business sponsor or the project sponsor is also a stakeholder, correct? However, do you think all stakeholders can be sponsors?
No.
No. So you must always remember this distinction between a sponsor and a stakeholder. A sponsor is somebody that funds for the project, and because he funds for the project, he is by default a stakeholder. On the other hand, there may be multiple stakeholders, but not all stakeholders are project sponsors or business sponsors. Okay? And lastly, a stakeholder may have other programs that will depend on this program that we are building or this solution that we are building. If that is the case, they are impacted, right? If I'm depending on you and you change the way you're doing things, then does it not impact me?
Yeah.
Yes. So anybody that is impacted in any way is a stakeholder. Everyone clear so far? Very nice. Any questions so far? Okay. All right. So we talked about the project manager, right? Now, project manager is anybody who has authority to manage a project. Now, why? A project sponsor or a business sponsor is not necessarily going into the details of the project, right? And sponsor is the vice president of the company or the district manager. Do you think he can go? And this is not the only project. Remember, he also said he has a trifold plan, right? Hiring more people, doing some marketing, as well as building an IT solution. So he has so many projects going on, plus day-to-day activity of managing people under him. Do you really think that he is going to go delve into each project, every detail, who's doing what, on all by himself? No, right? He's going to delegate. Now, he wants to be informed. He will monitor. However, he's not going to do the day-to-day administrative job. That day-to-day administrative job is delegated to a project manager. So project manager has the authority to manage the resources, which include time, money, right, as well as the people. It is his job to make sure that the solution that is being delivered meets the objectives. All right. So project manager is the one managing a project. In order for them to manage the project on a day-to-day basis, right? Can I manage someone else's plan? I don't know how you planned it, right? How do you expect me to execute it? I can only do my piece. So in order for a project manager to manage the project, first they must plan it, right? They can't execute someone else's plan. All right? So it must be their plan. They must put together a plan. They must execute it and close out the project. Okay? So project managers, like I said, they put together a work breakdown structure, meaning to say figure out what are the different things that need to be done, who needs to be doing it, when will each activity start, when will each activity end, so that they can manage time, they can manage resources, and of course when you manage time and resources, you also manage money. You know how? Because time is money. Let's look at it this way. If I say we need 3 developers to build this code, right, in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So if one developer works 40 hours per week, how many hours is that in 4 weeks? 160, right? One developer works 40 hours per week. For 4 weeks, it's 160 hours, right? And we said that we will need 3 developers. So how many total number of hours is that?
480.
3 times 160?
480.
480. If we said, right, just an assumption here, that the cost per hour, developers, right, salary or wages, is $100 per hour. What is the cost of development? Exactly right.
40,000.
Right. Okay, $100 per hour times 480. Okay, so that is the cost. So anytime when you manage your time and resources, you ultimately know your cost as well. So if you add up the cost, it should not exceed the total budget that was associated or allocated to this project. And this is what a project manager does. Right. In addition to this, all this information, right, project status on what, status of resources, status on budget, status on time frame, status of what has been accomplished so far, scope, this must be presented. Now, of course, this must be presented definitely to the sponsor, but in addition to that, the various stakeholders may also want to get an update, right? Every person has their own preferences, right? Some people like that information sliced and diced a certain way. Others, they need different information, right? So a project manager also manages stakeholders and manages their expectation. More stakeholders, more management required, right? Why? Always remember, guys, when you have more stakeholders, you will always find a couple of people who, there's, infighting, they don't talk to each other, they really like each other, but they're always butting heads. They're the two, one feels very strongly against the project. Why? Because it's provide there's a negative impact to his department, and he really does not want to deal with it. Another department may want it a certain way. Guys, mute yourselves. I can hear somebody's cell phone ring. Is there anybody who has a cell phone that is ringing?
Yeah, that's mine.
Okay, please mute yourselves. Okay, all of you.
Yeah, I did.
All right, thank you. So there's always somebody that is, something that's not in harmony, right? Now, as a business analyst, if you are going to manage all these different people, then when do you do the analysis of the solution, right? And that is why sometimes when we have more stakeholders, even if the project is medium-sized, but the number of groups involved, right, are more, then there may be a project manager. Why? Because we know if it's more than 3 to 4 people, it's a big group to manage. And we need just a project manager to be able to manage all these people, right? Trust me, guys. Every stakeholder, they want separate updates. They want it their way. They want to just meet with you on a one-on-one basis. If you had 10 people and you just have 1 week, even if you spend an hour every day with every stakeholder, and then they will ask you for more information, just typing out those emails and scheduling those meetings is a full-time job, okay? Putting the information the exact way that they want it is a full-time job. So if you have more stakeholders and if it's still a small to medium-sized project, even then, PMO managers will assign a project manager to it, okay? Or if it is a project that is very controversial, even though there are not as many people who are impacted by the project, but there's a lot of visibility on it, then they'll have a project manager assigned to it. So when is a project manager assigned is up to the PMO manager, right? He has to figure out the project dynamics and then figures out whether a BA can accomplish the same task or not. All right? So the project manager's job is to manage the resources as well, right? They will then look at, every project manager has certain roles and responsibilities. So the PMO lays down the rules and guidelines of what is it that the project manager is supposed to do at what phase of the project. When are these things due to who, right? In what format and all. So the project manager's job is to make sure that he has taken care of all of those deliverables, his or her deliverables, right? And provide progress and performance updates, okay? These performance and the progress updates are given directly to the project sponsor or project owner or business sponsor, whatever the title may be. Are you clear, all of you? Then we have the business analyst. So a business analyst, right? We are, again, if we are going to talk specifically about the IT projects, then we are the liaison between the technology staff and the management, right? Remember, it is the sponsors that have a project, right? They are the ones paying for it. So even if your project owner is different, right, it is still somebody from the management group. It is almost 100% of the times it is a C-level executive that we are interacting with, and we must get their problem solved, right, by putting together a solution. If it happens to be an IT solution, then we are working with the development team to get that done. Now, again, if it is not an IT solution, then you're working with any other team, right? So look at it. There are so many engineering disciplines. It's not all about IT, right? We have mechanical engineering, metallurgical engineering, architecture, construction, right? So whatever it is, we are working with that engineering group. Are you clear? All right. Now, we are an internal consultancy group. What does that mean? We are the people that the business sponsors and owners, they use us as sounding boards. They tell us what the objectives are. They tell us that they want to build an IT software, right? And these are the various features. It is our job to figure out whether those features that they've called out actually meet the objectives or not, okay? And how will these features work? How will this list of features that they have given us, whether you can make a cohesive product or not, right? It can't be all over the place. You can't have a cell phone that also works as a walkie-talkie and works as an iron, clothes iron, and works as a, you name it, right? Satellite and whatnot, correct? It must be very cohesive. What is it that you're trying to build? What are the objectives that you're trying to meet? Yes or no? So we must analyze it. In addition, in order to analyze it, there are different things that we will have to do. It could be from anything. We must first understand the vision of the project, the scope of the project. What does it entail? For example, if I were to throw a birthday party, right, a party today, or if you wanted to throw a birthday party, let's say I am the event coordinator, so you are my business, right? I'm providing services to you. If you said, I want to organize a party, do I not want to know what kind of party is it? Because the theme of a birthday party is going to be different than a theme for a bridal shower, right? Each of parties are events. Yes or no? If it's going to be indoor party or an outdoor party, do you think things will change? How many people? Will it require an RSVP or not? What the food, right? The silverware, all that will change. The cost of the event will also depend on what is it that you're trying to do. Yes or no? Right? So same here. When we have a project, we've got to understand what does it entail, what are we talking about, to understand how much do we think it's going to possibly cost us. We must have a rough ballpark. We must provide it to our business so that he can say, do I have sufficient budget to take on something like this, right? If not, then the project gets scrapped, and that is okay, all right? We need to know what this department, if you don't have the money for it, do you still buy it? Buy an item? No, right? So same goes. If they can't pay for this solution to be built, do we want to charge them for our services to build or go ahead and build something that they can't pay for? No, right? So we must do all of that. Then again, once we've understood the scope of it, we know roughly how much it's going to cost us. Then we do a return on investment analysis, right? Is it even worth it? Yes, it will meet the objectives. Yes, this is how much it's going to cost us, but really, is it worth it spending $500,000 on this solution? What is the benefit that you would receive? If your benefit is only 20 grand, really, do you want to spend 500,000 on it? Right? So we do that. We will then, if everything is fine, they feel that no, this is a great solution, then we start documenting what is it, because guys, remember, we are all people here, right? Even these business owners, they have all these great ideas. Today they have 2 new ideas. Tomorrow they may come up with 5 new ideas. Oh, we want this also, right? Some of these may clash. So the ideas from yesterday and the ideas from today, they may not be, in sync. You will have to figure out what is it that they really truly want. What is the final set? We can't be all over the place, right? What is the true set? You can't have everything, right? in that $500? Yes or no? You may want it. Right? All of us are looking for a great deal, but really, is there a perfect deal where you can have everything that you wanted at the lowest price possible? Is it even reasonable to think, expect something like that? No, right? Same goes, right? Remember, guys, business owners, they are always trying to get everything done in 3 months. Okay? So is it even possible to do it? What is it? What are the things that are really, really needed? What will meet our objectives? Again, like I mentioned before, there are many times people get hung up. They want things done a certain way. Never mind that it does not solve any of their problems. But this is what they want. You must call out that risk. You must do the risk analysis as well. Okay? So all we can do really is consult. We can't force them, but because ultimately it is their money. Now, all of you, right? And those of you especially who have kids, I'm sure all of you have had this situation where you take your kid to the market, right? You tell them this is really good, let's pick this, but the child really wants something else. Can you force them to buy something that you want to buy because it has better value, or you think it is good value, and the child also accepts it? How often does that happen? And for those of you who do not have kids, how often do you listen to someone else saying this is what you want when it is your money? If you are spending your money, you want what you want, not what someone else wants you to buy, right? So so what the most you can do is recommend. You can investigate and you can provide them with results of your analysis, right? As to, based on my analysis, this is your return on investment. Based on my analysis, these are your risks. And ultimately, the goal is that when you provide that logical proof, remember, this is a business world, right? They're not supposed to be making any emotional decisions here. So if they're not supposed to be making emotional decisions, then they should be able to look at the proof that you've provided, logical reasoning, and make proper decisions, right? But however, if they don't, then we don't have any say. Ultimately, it is their call to make. Are you clear? All right. We also talked about the development team, right? Designer and developer. Now, critical here is designer and developer. Why? All of you are aware, website only displays information, right? Just because there is a website doesn't mean that you can do many things, right? The links on the website, if you are able to do, right, click on the link and do a certain function, then that is a functionality. How the website looks like, and let's look at one of the websites. Let's talk about JCPenney. How this website looks like, where is the logo going to be, what are the colors of this website, how we have this image here and we have these boxes on this side and whatnot, how the tabs, right, these are really the tabs or the links, right, how they look. This is the web design. How was the website designed? It does not require a developer. However, the features of the website are, I can search for an item, okay? I can create an account. These are features of the website and require a developer. So there is a difference. Anybody who does the graphics is a designer. So the website is designed by the web designer. And the features on this website are built by the developer. Are you clear? Of course, this website is going to, this is going to sit on certain servers, going to get the information from certain databases, right? Those databases have to be put together, they have got to be designed as well. And that would be your architect, right? Database architects. Those are the software architects. How does the server talk to the database? How does the the blah blah blah, all the enterprise, right? All the different components of this software solution. How do they each talk to each other is an enterprise architect. And if you are building a software from scratch, then the solution must also be architected, right? So it's not how does it sit on the enterprise, how is it connected to the printers and the fax machines and the various computers and the projector and the databases and the server. That's the enterprise piece. But if you're just building a software from scratch, then the software itself you must also architect it, right? And that would be your solutions architect. So there's a difference between solutions architect, enterprise architect, and a database architect. Are you clear? Everyone clear? Okay. And deployment team. Not exactly, Nehal? Okay. Enterprise, look at it this way. Your company, right, has printers and fax machines and servers, right, your emails associated to the email account, right? You may have an internal web portal, right, internal website that you all log into. Yes? You may be using different softwares. How are all these softwares, these different applications, how are they put together? How do they talk to each other? How do they get information? That is an enterprise architect's job, to figure out how do they all, it's like building a community, right? So look at community of IT pieces, components. So that is the enterprise architect's job, all right? Now within this IT community, right, node community, we have solutions and we have databases, right? So a solution or an application must also be designed. So within a community, we have so many houses and parks. Somebody must design the house and somebody must design the park as well, right? Yes, Nehal? That would be your solution designer, okay, solutions architect. And same goes if we have databases. The database must also be, designed by somebody. That would be your database architect. Now, different kinds of database, there are different kinds. We have flat file database, we have relational database. Again, not that we need to worry about anything, right? Because it's IT piece. How they do it, how they put together the design is their piece. All we can say is we want 10 houses and 2 parks, all right? But there are different groups of people that are involved. Is everyone clear? Okay. Lastly, I'm sure again all of you have friends or family who, some of them are developers and some wake up in the middle of the night because they are on production support, right? Or they are on call. They have deployments in the middle of the night. So we can sometimes have a separate deployment team or a production support team. So we have developers who are simply focused on developing new software. When one project is over, they move on to a different project. And the software that they've already built is handed over to a separate team for deployment and production support. Okay, so the difference is like Toyota versus your dealership. Toyota is manufacturing the cars, right? And your Toyota dealership can fix the cars. Are you sending anytime you have a problem with your car, do you send it to Toyota for them to fix it, or do you send it, take it to your dealership so that they can fix it? Okay, so deployment team is more like your dealership. They are going to be responsible for any code that is already in production, any solution that is already there. So if it is a construction team, or if you have a hotel or a hospital, then the maintenance crew are maintaining it. okay? Not the construction guys. And in the maintenance team, you will have an electrician, you will have a plumber, you will have, somebody, if there's some shingles broken, windows broken, somebody to replace those as well, correct? You don't have to call your construction team all over to fix those issues, do you? No. All right, so developer and deployment team. Some companies, they are different, totally different. Other companies, they rotate. So if you have, even if you've done some development, you may be on call for production support the next 2 weeks. Okay? Again, every company works differently, but even when they have rotations, it is a different team, right? Everyone clear so far? All right. Then we will talk about our quality assurance. Why is this group important? It doesn't matter whether you're building a hospital or a website. Any solution must be tested out before you go live with it, right? Even if you have a hospital, right? You must check. We do have inspectors to come to test the wiring, to test the processes, if it's all working. Yes or no? Every component is tested, right? Even the elevators and the lifts and everything are tested, correct? Why? Because if any of those processes are broken, right, then do you think you will still be able to meet the objectives that you are supposed to meet? No. So whether you are manufacturing shoes or you are building casinos or you are building software, it must be tested and inspected. What does that mean? If my hospital or my hotel or casino is supposed to have 10 rooms or 15 rooms or 150 rooms or whatever, and so many bathrooms and so many light fixtures and, whatever the specifications are, I must inspect that not only does it meet the specifications, right, when I walk in, but it also meets the standards and all, right? So electrical standards, plumbing standards, every room has, I can't have paper-thin walls, right? If it is a casino, then people are going to be drinking and gambling and maybe smoking as well, right? Then there will be exactly per design, right? So what was the design? What were the requirements? What were the standards? I must inspect and test, make sure that all of those are met. So if there were 4 requirements, right? If I'm Donald Trump and I want to build a casino, right? Then my requirements of the casino were X, Y, Z, and, A, B, C, D, right? Then all of my requirements were met. And not only were they all met, they were built per the design, right? So what will I do as Donald Trump if I need these 4 requirements? I'm going to talk to my designer, right, and have him design it per my requirements. And then the tester is going to test the requirements, that yes, the requirements, anything that I asked for is there, and of course it has been built per design. Are you clear? So if it is non-IT project, then you have the QA group. And quality assurance can apply to anything. If it is software project, IT projects, then it can be called testing group, or it is also sometimes called software quality assurance. Now there is a difference, very slight, subtle difference between software quality assurance and testing. Okay, especially when it applies to the software world, IT world. If you are part of testing group, then your job is simply to test if the product that was built meets the specifications that it was required to meet. On the other hand, if your group is expected to provide SQA services, right, software quality assurance services, then your job is not restricted to simply testing and verifying, but you must also provide recommendations on how to improve the quality of the product. Okay? So that being said, again, this is a theoretical distinction only. you will find or come across many companies where the title of the group or the group is called SQA. However, the role that they play is really testing. Why? Because SQA is a more jazzy title than just testing. Okay? So the distinction that I told you about is more of a theoretical piece. I have come across many organizations where the SQA managers, frustration is we are SQA, but really in everybody else's eyes or per their understanding, even though the title says SQA, in their minds they're thinking testing. Okay? So, but you should know that there is a subtle difference between between what SQA does and what testing team does. Are all of you clear? Okay. So, what did we learn so far? We learned that a project can be IT project or a non-IT project, right? If it is an IT project, then we have the sponsor, we have stakeholders, we have the PMO group, right? Project manager, business analyst. We have developers, right? We have the testing team. If it is a non-IT project, then you swap your IT development team with whatever engineering that is required to develop that solution. Yes or no? And if it is not engineering, then whatever group, right, whoever is going to do the actual work. All right? Everyone clear of or how a project team or what is comprised, or how is the project team comprised of? Okay. So another concept that we must learn, and I've talked about this a couple of times today, is scope of the project. As I mentioned before, scope is the boundaries of the project, right? If you want to plan an event, then the cost of the project, what are the features that we're going to build as part of that project, everything will depend on the boundaries of the project, right? Yes or no? So if I'm just building a website, it's going to be, the resources that I need are different, the cost is going to be different, the requirements are going to be different. On the other hand, if I want to sell online, then my scope is different, right? I have to build a website, and that website must have the features so that the customers can buy online. Correct? So scope of the project is very important. All of you with me so far? And this scope is what a project manager is going to manage. And we are going to analyze. Because when we analyze the scope, we will find out what is required of the solution. What are we supposed to be building and how much? Okay? Everyone? Any questions? All right. So now let's talk about a project life cycle. Anytime there is a project, who defines the scope? Well, the business defines the scope. We implement the scope. We can document it, right? As business analysts, we will ask the question so that the business can clearly define it. We will document it, we will implement it. Sometimes it is called, scope definition is part of business analyst's job, right? Which is a misnomer. We define it in the way that we are asking the right questions so that the business can figure out what is it that he really wants. All right? Okay. So project, when we have a project, right, any project will go through different phases. I'm sure all of you ever gone, bought a laptop, a brand new laptop, or any of you have gone and bought a car from, bought a new car. Those of you, some of you are probably like me, right? In the initial phases, we don't buy a brand new car, right? But you do know the process, correct? Buying a laptop or buying a car, okay. So do we really just show up at the dealership, or just show up at Best Buy and order a laptop? Is that how we do it? No. We treat it as a project, correct? In our minds, we start planning. That's exactly right, Nitya. We start planning for it. When do I need this car? When do I need this laptop? Right? How am I going to pay for it? Why do I need it? We've got to justify it to ourselves, right? Because if you're going to incur a cost of $800, or whether it is $8,000 for a car, or $30,000 for a car, whatever it is, we must justify it first, correct? We must have a strategy on how we're going to buy it, whether we're going to buy it online, whether we're going to go to the store, how we're going to strategy on how are we going to make a payment. We must plan when exactly we want to buy it, yes or no. So we always strategize and plan first. We know we want a car, or we know we want a laptop, but we must have a strategy in place first. And this can probably, it may not take months. Some of us take longer, right? Even if you're thinking to buy a laptop, we plan, strategize for a couple of months, weeks. Sometimes we may plan and strategize. It may happen over a couple of hours or a couple of days, right? That's personal. Some people make decisions real fast. Other people, others need to think about it, chew on it a little more than others, right? So, irrespective of whether it takes a couple of hours or a couple of months, we always strategize and plan. Is that correct? Now, if once we have strategized and planned, do we not have a rough idea of how much we want to spend on this? Yes. And based on what is our limits, right? What is our budget? When do I want it by? So if I wanted it by the middle of June, before, back to school sales comes, is the sales deals are on, then I know what my cost is going to be, right? Then my requirements of the laptop will change. On the other hand, if I can wait until Cyber Monday, then I know that there's going to be a huge deal, right? Or if I can wait until back to school deals, then I know that the configuration that I can get for my laptop is going to be a better deal. In which case I can get more configurations for the same price, yes or no? So I must, based on my time frame, based on my budget, my requirements will change. Correct? When I say requirements, right, let's talk about laptop. I'm sure all of you have bought a laptop, even if you've not bought a car, right? The configuration, the hardware, the software, right? Everything, those are your requirements. What is it that you need? Some of us need the DVD what is that? Application software, right? Where you can rewrite, right? Player. You may want to be able to write CDs, correct? Some of us want very specific tools on our laptop, correct? Certain tools that we have to buy. Yes or no? Hard drives, correct? Those are our requirements. So based on our strategy, based on our budget, based on our timeline, our requirements will change. Now once we have those requirements, what do? Well, we can, if you want to just order it online, you go to the Dell website or whatever it is, you choose, right? You choose all the tick off all the things that you need, correct? You choose the look of the laptop, yes or no? Now what they have done is they have simplified the design process. So Dell or whatever, laptop company it is, they have certain laptops, right? The skeleton is pre-designed. And within that, they have certain slots where this is where the hard drive will go, this is where the, DVD application software will go, this is where the CD, write application will go, or, those pieces, components will go, right? Yes or no, guys? Now, if you were going through an actual process where you are designing it from scratch, so based on your requirements, you would sit down with an engineer and he's going to say, well, all of these, HP and Dell and IBM, they come up with new looks for their laptops, right? How do you think that works? They have somebody sit down together and put together, yes, it is based on market research, definitely, but somebody must design the laptop, right? They look and feel where will all these different components go, correct? So, that's right, we give our requirements to the engineer and that engineer is going to design it, right? And once it is, first it has to be on paper. Remember, even when we are building a house, we give our requirements to the architect, right? The architect puts together a design on paper. Yes or no? Once we approve that design, only then do we start developing it, correct? So it happens the same way. We give our requirements, a design is put together, and only once the design is approved, then the actual work begins. Alright? So then we start developing all the different components. If you were building a car, let's say all of us were rich enough to commission our own cars, we are approving a design for the car, right? I like a certain feature of BMW and some feature of Ferrari, another feature of Lexus and whatnot, right? And of course, I'm not going to talk about anything less than Lexus, right? Why? Because I'm designing my own car. It's a custom-built car. So nothing below that. You understand that, right? So I am building a custom car, so I must see a design first. And then we will start developing the different components, correct? Now, once all these different components are put together, we must test it, whether it is a laptop or whether it is a car, whatever it is. We must test it, that it works. That is called deployment, right? In order to test it or in order to take it home, first I must have my manual, right, on how to do different things. I may know how to drive the car, but how about all the other features? How do I make them work? I must have a training guide. I'm sure all of you have seen a training manual. Anytime you buy a laptop or you buy a car, it always comes with a training guide, right? A manual. And of course, as long as this car is working, you will need to have some operation service done on your car, right? You will have to take it for operation and maintenance, correct? This phase ends when the product, whatever it is no longer in use or it has been out of life, meaning to say it has outdone its life. We expected it to last 5 years and it is 5 years now. We don't support it anymore. If you still continue to use it, then you use it at your own risk. Alright? That is when the project's life cycle ends. No problem, Vilas, that's okay. Okay? Now the project life cycle is typically for non-IT projects. Okay? There are very few projects where you develop the non-IT component as well as the IT component all in the same project. Typically what companies do is, even if they have one big master project, they will break it down into two projects. One project, the non-IT component is going to be managed by a different project manager, a different business analyst, and the IT project will be handled by a different project manager and an IT business analyst. This is how Apple does its business as well. If you've noticed, the hardware is being developed in China. The software is developed in California. They're two different projects. They have two project managers, all right? However, when they have all the components ready, they are put together and they market one product. Okay? Are you all clear? So if you are working on such a project, a master project, right, the distinction between IT and non-IT will happen in the development phases. Why? Because you will, when you're putting together your project plan, overall project plan, right, you are thinking of the overall project, not at a component level, right? The software that is in your iPhone is just one component of the million other components, yes or no? Alright? I'm sure all of you have taken your car for an emissions check, state inspection. Do you know how they do it? They have a cable, they can open up the hood of your car, and they connect that to a monitor, a PC. Have you noticed it? To check how your system is doing, your car is doing. What does it mean? There's a software that's running in your car as well, right? Somebody built that software as well, correct? So it is just another component like the steering wheel, the brake systems, the muffler, the engine, and whatnot. Okay? So when you're building a car, you're not planning and strategizing for the software. You are planning, strategizing for the car. You are getting your requirements for the car. You are designing, putting together the skeleton, right? And how are the different components going to fit in together at a product level for the car. When you get to development, if you have to build your steering wheel or the doors or the windshield, that is a different kind of development than the software component. Yes or no? So the software will be developed using the SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle. Why? Because it's not something tangible. You just can't pour the liquid iron into a cast and build your door. Okay? It's not as simple as that, is it? Can you touch a code? Can you pour it into a mold and create it? No. So the development of the code requires SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle. Alright? And everything else is just whatever, however they build the, mechanics, right? The software will go on the chip. There's always, have you seen your smartphones? We always have a SIM card, right? There's always a microchip. Even the car has a microchip. So the chip itself is the hardware component. How will that be developed? We know how to what the mechanics works, right? How to build it. But the software must be installed on it. We will put it on the microchip, right? So when we have designed a car, we designed that space for that chip. Whether it is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter or 1 meter by 1 meter, whatever the size of it is. But we've designed that space for that chip. We are not designing the software itself. The entire development of the software will be done using the SDLC. Everyone clear? Now once the software component is built as well as the hardware components are built, right? The software is loaded onto that hardware, right? That microchip, and that microchip is put into that proper slot that we have per our design. and that entire car or laptop is built, or iPhone is ready. Once it is ready, it must be tested. Yes or no? So we're not just testing the software portion, we're testing the overall product. So the distinction happens in development phase. Once you have everything developed, you integrate it all together and you go back to the product level. Are you clear, all of you? So if you're working for Apple and working on a project that is on a higher level, right, product level basis, then this is how it works, the project life cycle. On the other hand, if you're working for Microsoft, which is only building software, just the software component, do you think you need to go through the project life cycle? No. Why? Because developing the software, if you're only developing the software, then you only need the SDLC. Are you clear? Then you bypass the entire project life cycle and you focus only on the SDLC. Alright, will you all remember this? This is very critical. This is where people sometimes get confused. Alright, so project life cycle is typically for non-IT projects. Project life cycle can apply to projects on a product level where we have IT and non-IT components. If that's the case, then the SDLC, right, the development is where the split happens between software and, or IT and non-IT components, and they must be built separately. The IT component will require the SDLC. Okay, once all the components are built, it is integrated and becomes, again, you're testing on a product level. If you are working for a software company only, all right, or if you're only building a software solution. So I am working in retail right now. I'm not working for Microsoft. However, I am only building software, all right, in which case I only need the SDLC. I am not building the hardware along with it. Okay? Everyone clear? How will that impact the project? It doesn't, Yadagiri. Okay? It does not impact at all. That is one of the reasons why we typically break it down into two projects. Both these projects must happen in parallel. There's a dependency. You can't launch your iPhone without the software, right? The iOS on it, operating system, can you? And then again, you can't launch your operating system without your hardware, correct? So they happen in parallel. And there's no way you can develop your software without the SDLC. They don't necessarily have to have different cycles. Remember, they're two different project managers, right? So if you are focused on just the Yadagiri, you are thinking of, if you're managing both projects, you are not. What will happen in this instance is two different projects, two different project managers, both of them are reporting to one program manager. Okay? So at that program manager level, he is not really looking into the development, he's looking more on the project updates, right? And it is his job to make sure that it is happening in parallel. So don't assume that we have to manage at different cycles. Even though the cycles are different, the time frame is still the same. Okay, Yadagiri? All right. So why do we do business analysis? Why is it critical? Right? Now imagine, if I have not analyzed what is it that I want, right? And guys, I'll tell you, sometimes we think, right, that we want to, we want some things. And very simple example. This is all of you, who read health news and all, right? Well, some of the things that are always listed is sometimes we eat even though we are really thirsty. Have you heard that comment anywhere? That sometimes we just eat when we're really not hungry, we're just thirsty. We really want water, but we eat. Okay? Now what happened? We wasted, right? This is not what we wanted. So buying food or making food was a waste of time and energy, right? And maybe money too. Correct? So same here. We have certain objectives to meet. However, if we did something else, if we built something else, we just wasted time and energy and money. Another example is, you need a specific thing, right? Very specific. However, when you go to the supermarket or the mall, you end up buying something totally inappropriate. You know that this is not what you wanted. You want something else, but you have fallen in love with this item and you end up buying it. Does it mean that you don't need the other item anymore? No, right? So you have just wasted money and effort, correct? In the corporate world, are you really supposed to fall in love with something and do it just because you think you want it? No. So anytime before we actually come up with the solution, we must first analyze what are the goals and objectives. Does this solution meet those objectives? If it doesn't, then it is a waste. And unless we do that analysis, do you think we will know whether this is a good enough solution or not? No. So one of the goals of business analysis is to reduce waste. All right? Another one is to create solutions. Unless you analyze the problem, right? Analyze the solution, how will you know what are the ways that you can solve it? Right? What else can we do to meet these objectives? So even when I'm building a software, right, whether it is a software that will allow the salespeople to be more productive, or whether I am building a software so that the marketing team can be more productive, or whether I'm building a website which will allow customers to buy online. Point is, unless I analyze how to improve the process, right, what else can I do? Do you think anybody knows? I mean, especially if you're building, this is the first time anyone's building the software, right? Do we ever have an idea of how to build it? Do you think Apple, right, or when Steve Jobs told his development team, I want a smartphone, right, that will, do you think they knew what he was talking about? Did any one of us know what an iPhone can do before it was launched into the market? No. So how did Steve Jobs or whoever his team was, right, how did they come up with all these different features to add into the software, that this software does so many different things? How? By analyzing it, right? What else can we do? How else can we create? When we say smart technology, what do we define as smart? Somebody's got to ask those questions, right? Research and learning. Yes or no? Do you think that makes sense? So part of business analysis, or one of the reasons why we do it, is so that we can come up with new solutions. Of course, we want to complete projects on time. Remember, now, unless we analyze the project, do you think we'd know what are the different components, what are the different features, right? Who needs to be working on it? Do you think we'd know all of it without analyzing it? No, right? So when we've analyzed the project, different pieces that we need to build, who's going to build it, then we know what is our time frame. We can track it, right? different tasks, we analyze it. So if we are not wasting time and money, then we will be able to complete our projects on time, correct? And of course, because we are not wasting time and money and we are doing up, we know exactly what are the things that we need to build and how long should it take. Do you think our efficiency is going up? So another goal for business analysis is to improve efficiency. Last but not the least, remember this is corporate world, right? Even if it weren't, I'm sure some of you, at least before we make big decisions, right, we document. Why are we put the paperwork through, right? Or we put together spreadsheets of our analysis. Why did we go for a certain thing? So that we remember that these were our constraints. This is what we wanted, right? This is what we signed up for. Yes or no? Because if we have to go back and figure out what did we get? What does this do? Why did we build it this way 3 months from now or 3 years from now? What if I am not on the project anymore? I've moved. I used to work at Citibank now, and then I used to work at ERCOT, and then I moved to Constellation. Do you think I remember all of it? Even if you were to track me down, do you think I remember it 6 years later? No. Do you think even the developers remember why they built this software, this feature the way it was? No. So for future reference, right, we must document it. It's not just for future reference, for political reasons as well. We must have proof of what we built and who commissioned it and why. So one of the reasons why we do business analysis, remember, we provide recommendations. If we don't have proof of our logical reasoning, right, this is what our analysis said. How would the PMO or the IT department in future say, well, we did recommend such and such. The business made this decision. Do you think businesses do have audits, right? They do an audit. What went wrong? What went right? So how are they going to do their audit if we don't have all our requirements, all our analysis, everything documented properly? Okay, so one of the reasons why we do analysis is so that we can document it all. What if I want to improve on it? Now look, we have iPhone, right? We had the iPhone 3G and then the 3GS and the 4S. Can you imagine if they did not keep notes on what they built in 3G? Do you think they would be able to improve on the 3GS really if you didn't know exactly what you had? No, right? A very day-to-day example. I don't know what's in my refrigerator, right? I show up at the grocery store. What are the chances that I'd pick up some of the ingredients that I already have in my refrigerator? Yep, it happens all the time, right? It may not be 100%, but it happens all the time, correct? See, if I'm trying to improve on one of the solutions that I've built, if I don't know what is it that I built to begin with, can I improve on it? No, right? So one of the reasons why we do business analysis is so that we can document it all. Everyone clear? All right. So in a sense, what did we learn? We learned about project teams, right? When we do IT project, when we do any kind of projects, right? When is business analysis needed? When we have some projects. When we have these projects, who's working on the project team, right? And then how are the projects shaped? They are shaped based on your scope. The projects are handled. How are they handled? Either using your project lifecycle or the SDLC. And why do we do business analysis? The 4 or 5 reasons that were listed in the previous slide. Are you all clear? Okay, so this was more or less a fundamentals class. Okay, tomorrow we will start learning about some of those techniques on how to do business analysis. Yes, Shadab.
Well, yeah, I have a question. It is regarding the stakeholders.
Yes.
For example, if I work in business A and business A sells a shampoo, right, to business B, does the business analyst need to consider business B as a stakeholder during the analysis process?
Okay, does the business analyst, what was that?
For example, there are two businesses, right? Business A and business B. If I work in business A, and if business A sells a shampoo to business B, does a business analyst need to consider business B as a stakeholder during the analysis process?
Yes, so there are some projects when you do, for example, even in the IT projects, right? We outsource some of our development to TCS, Wipro. I'm sure you've heard of these companies, right? Infosys. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were working for TCS, right, and you're providing services to JCPenney, let's just assume, then yes, you have to, JCPenney is your stakeholder. They are the business sponsors. They are probably asking you to do the project, and yes, you must take into consideration all of their requirements because JCPenney has an interest or in the process or the outcome. So even the example that you gave me, if this application is going to impact business B who's buying these shampoos from you, if it impacts them, yes, they are a stakeholder.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anybody else? Any other questions?
How often do we come up, Pooja, this is Srinivas, that BAs act as project managers also?
Okay, that is a very common scenario. So, and very good question, Srinivas. So look at it this way. There are only so many Fortune 500 companies, right?
Right.
Most of the companies, and there are many companies in the world, what bucket do they fall in? Small to medium sized, correct?
Yeah.
It is always the pyramid, right? We have the biggest numbers, the small sized, and then slowly we have the middle layer and then the top layer, correct?
That's correct.
Same applies for projects as well. You will, at any given time, for any company, the 60% of your projects are going to be small projects. Anything small is more than 3 weeks of effort, up to 3 to 4 months, depending on company. Some companies define 3 months, other companies define up to 4 months. So whatever, 3 to 4 months of effort. So more than 3 weeks, up to 3 to 4 months. All right. Then we have some medium-sized projects. Right? So if you said the bottom part of the pyramid was 60%, then the top maybe 30% is going to be, or 35% is going to be your medium size. So medium-sized projects are going to be 3 to 4 months, depending on whatever. So if we chose 3 weeks to 3 months, then anything more than 3 months up to 6 months, 6 to 9 months. All right? Is medium size. Anything more than that is a large size project. So any given year, if you have 10 projects, this is the breakdown that you would have. You typically only have one big project a year. Okay, 1 or 2, depending on the size of your company. So of course, if you're working for IBM, they may have 50 projects in a year or 150 projects in a year, of which only 10 of them may be, or 5 of them may be really big projects. The others are going to fall somewhere in the range of small or medium size. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So if that is the case, then remember, small projects, the BA is almost always the project manager. 3 weeks to 3 months, you don't need a separate project manager for it. Remember, a project manager's salary, you've got to pay that person a salary. If it's a small project, you don't have huge budgets for it, right? Do you really want to pay somebody to put together a project plan? No. In which instance, you as a business analyst are also the project manager. Medium-sized project is where it becomes a little tricky. Why? Because you've got so many other variables to consider. How many stakeholders, right? What is the budget? How visible is this project? What is the time frame? So even if it is not going to cost you too much, which really, if it's going to take you 2 years to build, or even 6 to 9 months to build, then your cost also goes up proportionately, right? So, like I said, medium-sized projects, there's some, it could be high cost, budget is high, but you don't have too many stakeholders. You only have 2 to 3. In which case, you may or may not have a project manager. So I'd say about 40 to 50% of the medium-sized projects, you are the project manager as well. And large projects, definitely there will always be a project manager. Does that answer your question, Srinivas?
Yes, very much, Praja. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions? What level of manager skills? So when you say manager, we are really talking about project manager, yeah, right? Okay. So you must have entry-level project manager skills. This is one of the reasons why if you go to the blog that we have shared with you, and you go through all the documentation that has been shared with you, now only those of you who have already signed up for the course will have access to it. Okay? We will have posted information on project management and SQL and whatnot. We will post information here. Okay? So you must know that when we talk about Microsoft Office products, we talk about the skill levels are beginner, intermediate, and expert. You must have beginner's level, expertise in project management skills. Microsoft Project is a very simple tool. If you go on their website, they have online tutorials. You can get free downloads and you can use it. They have samples to create. It is very easy, very simple. All of you, only thing you need to do is click on their video, go through the tutorial, and play with their applications, okay? You need to have beginner's level of Microsoft Office skills. You need to have at least intermediate level skills in Microsoft Word and Excel, all right? As a business analyst, this is the minimum intermediate level. If you can have expert level, that would even be better. And as a business analyst, you need to have experience at minimum intermediate level in Word, Excel, Visio, and PowerPoint. Okay, so you must have intermediate level knowledge in these 4 applications if you are a business analyst. Does that answer your question? All right. Any other questions? Okay, so today we did some fundamentals. We will learn some more fundamental techniques that you can apply for IT as well as non-IT projects. However, next week onwards, we will start focusing strictly on IT, business analysis, all right? So tomorrow is another fundamentals class. It is a little more intense than today's, so please be prepared. We will use up an additional 15-20 minutes. Roughly around 12 noon is when we will be done. So please come prepared accordingly. Now, I will give you 10 minutes break tomorrow in the middle so that you can come back, freshen up, and come back. Okay, but for those of you who have not signed up already, please speak to Balwan Of course, both ways. If you have not enjoyed today's session, if you think it was not useful, all feedback is welcome, guys. All right? And, of course, if you did enjoy it, please sign up. Starting tomorrow, there will be assignments. Everyone clear?
Yeah.
All right. So with that, guys, I'm going to sign off today's session, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. Thank you all very